Your alternative talk radio contact. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro of the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Welcome to another episode of Into the Fray, leering at you from the woodline. Visit the mothership at intothefrayradio.com. There you can find all the episodes, the blog posts, ITF gear, and sign up for the free guest newsletter. The weekly show is, of course, always free and available in all podcatchers, but if you'd like to support the show, and why wouldn't you, go to the website and click Become an Insider, which in turn gets you extra content each and every month. And by the way, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review in your listening platform of choice, Cosmic Karma shall be yours. Be part of the discussion by joining the interactive ITF Facebook group, follow on Twitter at ITF_radio, and Instagram. If you have an experience that you'd like to share, email Shannon at intothefrayradio.com or call the hotline anytime at 844-866-3366. Thanks so much for listening. Now, if you would be so kind, buckle up your safety belts. Put that tray table in the upright position. Liftoff is upon us.
So on this episode of Into the Fray, I have on with me Jeff Waldridge. And Jeff has a background in law enforcement. He has been investigating the paranormal for 19 years, and he says he's been researching since he could read. He is the partner in the Nick Groff Tour, Creepy People Management, Cryptid Con, Wild Man Days, and he also owns Lawrenceburg Ghost Walk and his own production company. Jeff, welcome, and how do you do all that? How do you keep all that straight?
Got to have some level of insanity, I guess.
Amen.
Sometimes it gets a little hectic when you try to juggle everything, but I guess it really comes into what is urgent at the time and what needs to be done, and let's do that, and then we'll figure something else out. So
right.
Usually it comes down to working the regular job, getting off work, and then working probably about 8 more hours on whatever else. I
totally get that. I'm in the same boat as you. And I like the touch of insanity. I completely agree with that. And I think we all have some degree of that in there somewhere. We don't know.
I think you have to. I think there's a level of insanity and intelligence is really, 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 there's a really thin line there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me about all this stuff. I'm glad we were able
to be here. I'm glad you had me.
So
you must be dragging the bottom of the barrel to
no way.
Pull me into this.
You're crazy. See, now I know you're insane. No, I was looking forward to talking to you. I mean, you've got a long, broad background in all of this stuff, from cryptids to hauntings, and I was looking up the Anderson Hotel a little bit, which I was not familiar with, so we're going to touch on that. But let's start off with, I like the touch where you're like, well, I've been investigating for 19 years, but I've been researching since I could read. So do you remember why you started to, be interested in this stuff, or was it always just kind of there?
Well, I guess the big thing was, my parents never really frowned upon me being strange or me looking into strange things. And I guess my dad was always an advocate for that. Always liked to hear ghost stories, and always, I started watching horror movies at a young age, and we would always talk about weird things, or we would hear people talking about weird things, or whatever the case is. It kind of got me intrigued, and then I was always the kid in school where everybody else would be over there looking at whatever book you could imagine, and see Nan run or whatever the case is. But I was always the one that wanted to, check out the Bigfoot books or the ghost books, or, scary stories to tell in the dark, or any of those kind of creepy books is kind of what I would go for. So really, since I've been reading, I've read these books. And back then there wasn't a whole lot, because that was before the internet, so you really had to go to a library and say, hey, what kind of books you got on this, or what kind of books you got on that? And I think it was just, I read so much on so many topics because there wasn't a whole lot out there. So, you would read all the Bigfoot books, and then you'd switch to the Loch Ness Monster. You would switch to, UFOs or ghosts or whatever, just to try to keep that craving fed. So that's kind of what happened.
It was definitely more of its own cryptid hunt, was finding books on such things as ghosts or cryptids. It was its own excitement just to find the books.
And, when I was younger, I had a library card to a couple of different libraries, because my local library was not that big, and they only had so many books on different things. So then I would go to the next city over, and I would look at their books and be like, oh, well, they've got 15 or 20 books. So, it really all comes down to what I could get. And then when the internet happened, Lord, the world was at your fingertips. So.
Yeah. So what do you think your favorite subject is then? I mean, I know you're probably a little bit more heavy right now at this moment, maybe on the haunting side, because you're doing the Nick Groff Tour and all of that. We're going to talk about that too. But of course, there's Cryptid Con, which is heavy cryptid. So, I mean, what's your favorite odd subject?
Strangely enough, I kind of like the obscure things. I like some of the conspiracy theories. I like, treasure legends. I like, sometimes you get burnt out with ghosts. Like, ghosts take up pretty much from getting ready to be from April all the way to October for me. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you get burnt out. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about ghosts anymore. And then sometimes you're just like, and then Cryptid Con, you got that, and with Bigfoot and all that kind of thing, that takes up the rest of the space and what's left in the ghost, where the ghost is not there. So that's a nice break. So I kind of bounce around from subject to subject. Usually from about November to about January, February, I really don't focus on a whole lot. I'll focus on doing some production projects, or I'll do, some things that I want to do on the side. But, I'll dabble in a little bit of everything. I still keep up with, with haunted locations, and I still keep up with investigating some. And then I'll keep up with, news articles and things like that. But one of my favorite topics as of late is, Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road and things like that is kind of what I've been really sparking on as far as the cryptid side of things goes lately. But that's, I kind of bounce around. So I'll start a research project, and then I'll go to this one, I'll go to that one. It's just, that's the way my brain works.
So speaking of cryptids, you mentioned prior to us hopping on that you think you may have heard of Bigfoot once. What was that situation?
Yeah, there was a time when I lived out in the country, in Kentucky. There's wilderness areas, like wooded areas where you don't have very much cell phone service, and then there's city areas. There's a little mixture of everything. And I think that's why I like Kentucky so much. And so there was a time when I was living, and I lived up there for a short amount of time, but it was out in the country, as I would call it. And one morning, I had a wood burning stove, so I had to go down and get the fire going when it was winter time. And it was about daylight, so it wasn't, it was just now starting to get daytime. And you could hear the coyotes, hollering back and forth. And then this really loud, deep howl was let out, and everything went quiet. And you could hear all of this wilderness. You could hear the coyotes, you could hear the frogs, you could hear everything as the sun was coming up. And then this big, loud, deep howl went out through the hills. everything got quiet. And it sounded exactly like some of the vocalizations that you hear. So I honestly think that that's something I couldn't explain. It was nothing I've ever heard before. It's nothing I've ever heard since. So to me, I think that's probably was Bigfoot. No proof exactly, but that's exactly the way they sound when you hear them on recording. So to me, I think that's probably what it was, because everything went quiet. It was almost like, oh God, we need to be quiet. But it was something. It was interesting. It was something that made you think, what was that?
Yeah, it definitely leaves an impression on you. And actually, one of the most remarkable times that I was out for Bigfooting and had something audio related, I was actually in Carter County, Kentucky. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how close that is to where you are. Or
that's probably about 2-3 hours away.
Okay. Yeah, and it was the same situation where something just blasted off. And it actually, everything else was dead quiet for a few moments, but then it got the coyotes going. But then it seemed like they kind of stopped very suddenly, and then it went off again. So it was, yeah, you're just going, oh, okay.
And that's exactly kind of what this was they stopped, almost like they knew what it was.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we'll be quiet. And so it was almost like whatever it was kind of establishing dominance.
Yes.
Over the area. But it definitely, they all stopped. It was like you flipped a switch and they stopped. And then, there's theories out there about infrasound and things like that. Who knows? But maybe they knew that it was getting ready to howl, and they were like, okay, we need to stop.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have this like moment, right? They're like,
yeah,
big boy's out. We got to be quiet.
Wait a minute, we got to be quiet. We've awoken the beast.
Yeah, like damn it, kids.
But there's all these theories in Kentucky about Dogman too. So who knows? Honestly, if it was Bigfoot or Dogman or I try to be open about things. I would much rather see Bigfoot than I would Dogman, I think.
I was just going to ask that because Dogman always seems very pissed off. It's really ill-tempered.
If there is a Dogman, which, there's been many accounts across the country, I would think that if I had to choose which one you would want to be looking at, I would much rather pick Bigfoot, I think, than Dogman, because we know Dogman is always angry, and he would be the apex predator. I mean, something that fast that's a carnivore it would be insane. So, then of course on the other side, Bigfoot, it could honestly rip your arms off, with its hands. So who knows? I mean, it's really a lesser of two evils.
It does seem like though that Bigfoot is more of the mind that, hey, he might come in close, but he doesn't really want you to see him that much. It seems like Dogman doesn't give a crap. Like, Dogman's like, look, I'm going to pop out. You hear these stories of them. They'll be crouched down and kind of folded up, and then they just start standing and in their full splendor, and joints are popping, and they don't give a crap if you see them. That's what it seems like with those things.
And I think that's why that they try to establish, hey, I'm pretty much hunting you, so you can do what you want. There have been many people that have given stories about being stalked by Dogman, and they're crazy. I mean, they're creepy. There's not a whole lot of stories out there where Bigfoot's stalking a human. I'm sure they follow you, and I'm sure they know you're there. I mean, there's proof of that. But I don't think that it's actively hunting human beings.
With Cryptid Con, are you guys doing much Dogman stuff as far as the speakers goes, or is
actually this year will be we're going to have some Dogman stuff this year. We've got Linda Godfrey coming, which is one of the foremost experts on American werewolves, I would think, and Dogman and things like that. And she's going to be there, and she'll be speaking. And then we've got some other things planned that we've got coming up. We've actually got a guy coming over from England that's going to speak on their werewolves and and lichens and things from their folklore over there.
Nice.
So he's going to be coming over and speaking. So we've got some more Dogman-oriented things this year than we did last year. Last year we had a little bit in there. This year we've got a few things, kind of Bigfoot and Dogman would be nice. Shared, I guess, event this year. It'd be a little bit of split in the middle as far as Bigfoot and Dogman. And then we always try to sprinkle in other cryptids as we go.
Yeah, it's been a nice, dichotomy between everything. I know I've been watching Cryptid Con for some time. I want to make it out to one of these events, of course, to meet you guys. But when is the next Cryptid Con and where is it?
It's September 8th and 9th in Frankfort, Kentucky. I'm almost sure that's the dates. September 8th, it's cryptidcon.com is the webpage.
Perfect.
We're selling tickets right now. We've got Bigfoot Expedition. We do one of those. They're very limited on spaces, so you can go and get your VIP ticket that includes that expedition and go out. You actually go out into a local area and see if you can scare up the creature, I guess.
Yeah, get them to howl at you a little bit. You know, what's something that struck me about Kentucky was the second I got over, I drove, that was when I was in Ohio, so I was able to drive there. And it seemed like within 20 minutes of being across the border, I got into Kentucky and there was caves and these beautiful, ravines. I guess you call them hollers, right? The ravines, like the dips in the areas are hollers. Well, I mean, what's your thought on, do you think that with all those caves there, I don't know if have all been searched and documented, and even so, something could still be in there, but what are your thoughts that maybe the big feats is they use the cave systems or caves just to live in or, get the breeding population going?
Well, it's possible. There's no telling what's in the caves because some of them are not explored. Kentucky has one of the world's largest, if not the world's largest cave system in Mammoth Cave.
I did not know that.
And that's in the western part of the state. And I don't know if it's the world's largest, but I know in the United States it's definitely, but it may be the world's largest cave system.
Wow.
But there are some cave maps that show that cave systems stretch all the way underneath Kentucky and from one end to the other end of the state. And, some of them are not explored. Some of them are. Some of them have not been explored because of the dangers of, gases and things like that, oxygen levels. But, there's a great possibility that anything could live in those caves. Bigfoot, if he needed to go somewhere, I'd say that'd be a great place for him to go. If he hibernates, who knows if that happens or not. There's theories out there that they may, go into kind of for the winter time, they'll go stay in a place. But who knows? I don't know at this point if they migrate or not. There's theories out there that they do and they don't. So I try to keep my mind open as far as everything. I try to read a little bit of everything as far as that goes. And we won't really know until one is actually captured or something of that nature where we can study them. At this stage, it's just theory. I mean, there's no pure proof for what they do.
Yeah, it seems like a cave system or any cave would be incredible for a creature like that wants to stay off the radar. They don't like humans. Who can blame them? And obviously they can see pretty well at night because it seems like there's plenty of activity at night versus during the day. Why not use the caves? It'd be an incredible subway system for them.
Well, it'd be a great place for them to store food and, get warmth because winters sometimes in Kentucky are pretty harsh.
Yeah.
So they would have to have some type of shelter. I mean, they have fur and I'm sure they're very well insulated. But the problem that I see with Bigfoot is, do they shed? Some mammals shed. They shed a winter coat. They have a summer coat. But there's never been any proof of that. Mm. But who knows? I mean, there's so many questions out there that we could bring up that you try to look at the way other animals do, and you're like, well, wonder if they do that? wonder if they do this, wonder, how much intelligence they actually have. I mean, I'm sure the way it seems to me, they have some type of communication system. So there would have to be breeding groups or family systems that they keep. So it would be quite interesting to see how they would use caves to their advantage. And I think maybe that's why that Kentucky does have some of the, some very well-known Bigfoot areas.
I miss going out there so much. Just Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, all the whole area. I miss it.
It's kind of a spooky area, really. When you look at it, and you look at everything that's happened in that 3-state area there of West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio. You get some crazy stories that are very well known throughout America. You've got Mothman, you've got the Loveland Frogmen, you've got all kinds of these creatures and UFO sightings and mysterious areas that are right here in that 3-state area that kind of makes them a little bit mysterious.
Yeah, that same night that I was out there with Ramona Bell in Kentucky, and we were on that property in Carter County, and the same night that the howls went off, we were out on the front porch, and right across the front porch, it was a little hill up to the dirt road, and then right across from there was all this open land, and it was very, woodsy and the whole nine, and we had walked across the dirt road, and me and Ramona were standing next to where the trees came down to meet the road, and there was just the strangest, it's even hard to describe. It sounded like me and Ramona settled on between like a raptor, an owl, and a dog. It just made this god-awful noise, and it was like ground level, like right in front of us. We couldn't see anything, and it was dark, but it really makes you wonder what's really going on out there, because we couldn't even, we spent a couple weeks going on YouTube, and we're like, well, kind of sounds like this, but then you'd have to add in this animal. Like, what in the hell's going on out there?
Do you ever, sometimes a fox will make a sound that's almost like a woman screaming. And it's the craziest sound you'll ever hear. And when I lived out there in that area, I heard it, and I was like, my God, what is that?
I wish I would have heard
sure enough,
that.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I've heard a rabbit scream. When I was a kid, we've had rabbits, and I went to pin it down, but
oh man,
I've never heard the
something else.
Yeah, the woman being murdered in the most horrific way.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Right?
It sounds like somebody is lost in the woods, or somebody's being tortured. I mean, it's very, very, very crazy.
You know how you said about you'd never want to run into a Dogman and Bigfoot would be better on the list? I totally agree, by the way. Have you ever talked to anyone that's been out in the woods and has heard a baby cry out in like deep woods, like way out there?
No, I think if that happened to me, I would be like, well, I need the woods. I'm going to have to go ahead and leave the woods.
Yeah.
Who knows? That may be some kind of mechanism by some creature to draw you in, just like that we have tools that we use for hunting, rabbit in distress or whatever it is. That may be that creature's way of saying, hey, watch this. We're going to get these humans to come closer.
So messed up.
So, yeah, I probably wouldn't go close to it. I'd be like, well, I'm going to go ahead and leave. If there's a baby this far out, we're in bad shape anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously there's something really nefarious going on, and let's time to boogie out of here, because I think to me that would be just one of the...
I'm pretty sure I would not want to see what that is making that noise, because almost guarantee it's not a baby. How's a baby going to get out of here?
Oh my God. Yeah, I've heard.
There's so much strange stuff out there that we don't know about. And I think that's why I really like the paranormal. And I think if people dug around more in the weirder little side stories, that they would have, learn more than if they would go after the main story. Everybody
absolutely.
knows about, the big stuff. But if you dug into some of these little things, man, you can really get some cool stuff. When I was doing shooting my documentary that I was doing, I actually got to interview the sheriff that was in Falk, Arkansas, that was a part of the whole legend of Boggy Creek and the Boggy Creek Monster. And he was the sheriff at the time when all that happened. And so, I kind of stopped after we got done talking to him about the documentary, and I was like, hey, tell me about the Boggy Creek Monster. And he was telling me all about the stories, and he said eventually what happened was they just stopped reporting it to the news people, because every time they would report it to the news people, it would be hysteria, and people would be shooting through their doors and everything else. But he said it kept going on for the longest time. He said it never stopped. He just said they stopped telling them about it.
Yeah, you can't blame them.
So it was fun. It was fun to sit and listen to that, to hear firsthand. And he was out there, and he got to see the tracks, and he got to see everything. He was out there when it first started going down. And it was pretty interesting. What's
the name of your documentary? Is that out for people to get a hold of?
So no, it will be. It'll be out probably right before first part of summer. It's called Murder in the Moonlight, and it's all about the Texarkana Moonlight murders. So the Phantom Killer of Texarkana. So that's what I did. Was I went down and I shot for 4 days down there, and I interviewed all the a lot of the experts and people that had researched the case, and then I actually got to talk to. He's passed away now, but it was actually the brother of one of the victims. He was actually the last person alive that was connected to the case.
Oh, wow.
And I got to interview him. So it was pretty cool being down there, but Falk is just, it's right probably 15, 20 minutes from Texarkana. So I said, why I'm this close, why not? So we got to go to Monster Mart, and I got to look around. But, that'll be my first documentary that's my own that'll be coming out, and then I'll be doing others. But that's pretty much what the production company is. I do commercials, and I'll do music videos, and I work with some other places. But the big thing is I want to do documentaries. I've always been very excited about documentary films, so that's kind of what I'll be shooting for on those.
Yeah, I mean, with your background in law enforcement, I could see why you'd be leaning towards true crime. I love true crime. It's fascinating, just even a glimpse into these people's sick minds and what is just normal for them. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the Texarkana thing, and I think the reason I chose it, is that it kind of started urban legends as far as the whole Lover's Lane stuff with the killer coming out and, the hook hand and all that kind of stuff. That was those were your first Lover's Lane murders. And so those kind of sparked that urban legend. And, you had a guy with a bag on his head and all this other weird stuff. So there's a whole lot there to dig into. And that's kind of what I did with the documentary, was I wanted to show everything about it. And I was kind of shocked when it had not been done, but it hadn't. So the first thing I did was I said, well, I got to get all the people. I got to get all the people that you may see on an interview somewhere in one location.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to do. And then I went out and shot the locations. I went out and looked at things. And I actually got to hold in my hand the last piece of evidence that exists from the case.
Really?
And
what is it?
It's sealed from 1946. It's a bullet. And it's still sealed from 1946.
Wow.
And it's pretty crazy. What happened was they sent it to a lab to be tested. Well, one day, one of the person that got it, how he acquired it was he was with the sheriff's department, and it just came in from the lab. I guess they were getting rid of things, so they were sending it back to the counties, and he got it. So it was going to be thrown out, and
oh my gosh,
he didn't let it happen. So it's still sealed. It still has the original investigator signature on it. I mean, it's cool. It was pretty cool to see that and to hold it and say, that's pretty neat, because this inside of this was fired from the gun of a person that, murdered a person and severely wounded another person. So, there's a lot of keys. It's probably to that bullet.
Well, when it's closer time to that coming out, if you would like to come back on and we could do an episode about that, I would love to.
Oh, yeah, of course, it'd be fun.
Yeah, true crime is something I keep saying, I love it so much, but I haven't done an episode in so long, so I'm going to try to get back into that. So, whenever you're ready.
I love true crime. I love watching the documentaries, and I love reading the books. And, there's so many out there that have not been covered with documentaries that I think should be done. And they should be done while these people are alive, where you can get the full story. Because a lot of times you'll read a book or you'll see something or you'll see a news piece, and it really don't give you the full story. Where if you hear from the people firsthand, you get a great picture of what actually happened. And it kind of cuts down that folklore, it cuts down that rumor, and you can actually get to the root of the story, like, with the Phantom Killer stuff. I found out stuff that I'd never heard before, and some other people had never heard before. And it's just because unless you're there and unless you capture it, there's no way you're going to know.
I have a question for you with your law enforcement background. Have you watched the documentary Making a Murderer?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that they did that to you, Teresa?
I don't think I think it's missing information. The young kid, that was a horrible confession. That was a horrible interrogation that was done. So I can see why that they're trying to get that kicked out. And I think they did, and then they went back on it, but I'm not sure where it stands now. But that was a horrible interrogation. There's a lot of issues with that case. I mean, there really is. And you see that sometimes with investigations, where this series was done on this one case. You could take cases from across the country and they got the same kind of weird stuff going on. Sometimes investigators get lazy and sometimes they don't do the right thing, and sometimes they do things that they shouldn't. So, I mean, that's everywhere. And, I don't know. I'm not real sure, but I do know the interrogation that they did on Brandon, I think his name was horrible.
Yeah.
And it was very leading, and it was very, so there's no, I don't see why that hasn't totally been kicked out, because I know they did, and then they appealed it, and then they did whatever else. But that was awful. That was a horrible interrogation. But whenever they throw that out, what that's going to do is that's going to open up the door for the other part of it. And when that opens up that door, well, then there you go. I mean, it's called fruit of a poisonous tree. You can't use stuff that you got in an illegal fashion or inappropriately to convict somebody. So that's, in the whole law enforcement court world, fruit of a poisonous tree is kind of what they call it. So you can't just use that to say, well, we didn't get that properly. Well, now we got to throw all that out and redo it all. So it's all got to be done right, procedurally wise. So it's a headache. And I'm sure if the investigators are sitting there and they're looking at it and they're like, my God, they blew that. And sometimes it all comes down to leaving it in the hands of an attorney, a prosecuting attorney or something. You hope they do a great job with it. And it's a gamble sometimes.
I just was going back and forth so much during watching that. 20 minutes, I'd be like, oh, yeah, unfortunately, I really think that they did this to this woman, and it's horrible, and they burned her body. But then in the next 20 minutes, I'm going, oh, my God, wait a second. That really does seem like law enforcement. It just had it out for this guy. So I don't know either. I don't know either, because I just
Well, and here's the thing, too. You got to also realize you're watching a series that was edited. And you're really not looking at all. They cut out some of the evidence. There was evidence. There was some DNA evidence that they left out of the series. So, I encourage anybody to look into it a little closer before they come to a conclusion, because you got to remember, sometimes people take a creative license with things because they want good TV. It's not necessarily what's right or wrong. We're going to tell the story the way that we think it needs to be told.
Well, let's switch gears here a little bit and jump into the Anderson Hotel, which this is really cool. You said that you were the caretaker, and you were actually the one that discovered that the place was haunted. Yeah.
So I do the Ghost Walk in Lawrenceburg, and I usually it's usually around July, August, and I'll go all the way to Halloween. Well, I'm constantly looking for new places downtown that I can feature on the walk. Constantly trying to get new information, new things. So, you know, I had the opportunity. This old hotel sits right above some of the stores on Main Street. And one of the owners said, you know, we just got this place. Come up and look at it. So I did. And it was like a time capsule. It was 30-era hotel. You know, it was built in 1933, opened in 1935. So there was a lot of stuff up there that was still there from the 30s. And it's just because there was no easy way to take the stuff out because there's stairs on both sides. And there wasn't an elevator or anything. So, I mean, you know, in order to get these
Hey, Jeff,
things out,
it sounds a little muffled on this end. I'm sorry. I don't know if...
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's better. Sorry.
I moved my phone. Oh, you're okay. But, you know, you got to realize that it was kind of like a time capsule because, you know, people didn't want to carry stuff up and down stairs. So they just left things. And, you know, I found later on through research and digging through the place that a lot of things were left from people because if you didn't pay your rent on time, then they would just lock your door. So there you go. So they kept their belongings inside. So there was a lot of stuff up there. And when I first started investigating, I didn't even know if there was going to be any activity at all because it seemed like it was very low energy at first. But then it really kind of kicked off and a lot of stuff was going on up there. And as you started to work with it more, you learned that, you know, sometimes these places that lay dormant, they kind of die down some. And then when you introduce humans back into the environment again, well, then the activity becomes, you know, higher. So that's kind of what I found with doing the research. And I investigate that place a ton. I mean, all the time. I mean, I was constantly up there. So, I mean, it was neat, and it helped me grow as an investigator. And when you have a place like that, you get to experiment, you get to learn things. And I highly recommend, if anybody has an opportunity to get their own place somewhere that they can investigate all the time, anytime they want, and try experiments to do it, because it's going to let you grow as an investigator. You know, sometimes these investigators only go out, you know, once or twice a year, or once or twice, you know, every 6 months. And you don't learn a lot about the locations, but when you really have a location where you can go anytime, and you'll learn tons about how that stuff works. And I did. It was crazy. But you really start to understand what we are kind of looking for.
So I was reading about the Anderson Hotel, and one of the things that really caught my attention and made me pause was there were reports of creatures dragging themselves on the floor. Have you heard of that, or have you come across anyone that's seen anything like that?
Yeah, it's more like there was always something that there was some type of creature up there that was always like it was probably always about knee high. And I would think, to me, when I first saw it during the daytime, and I thought it was like a raccoon or a possum or something. I thought it was an actual creature because it came around the door frame and it kind of startled me because I thought it was real, and then it just went away. But you would see it running around. It would run around the entire hotel. But it was about the size of I would say like a small dog or something like that, but it was some kind of creature. And it was, it looked like it was on all fours. Sometimes it'd just be a shadow. So really not sure what it was, but it was weird. It was a weird little fella, that's for sure.
That's interesting. You've actually seen it. I didn't realize that.
Seen it during the day. I was the first person to see a lot of things because I was up there a lot.
Right.
And I saw it during the day, and I actually thought it was a raccoon or something that had got inside the building. But then it was gone. I mean, it kind of popped around the corner and then it was gone. So it was weird. But yeah, I would see it quite frequently.
And also there was a report of confirmed blood on a mattress from a suicide.
Yep. There was. So when the current owners got the building, what they did was, I had them ask. I was like, hey, can you ask, the previous owner if anything happened up there? And they were talking about some suicides and different things like that. And One lady, he said that there was a girl that slit her wrist and bled out on a mattress up there. And he was very adamant that he had thrown it away. And so I knew for a fact that when we first went up there was only one bed that was still laid down, and it actually had a comforter over top of it. And we threw back that comforter, and underneath was this huge dark stain. So what we did to try to confirm that was I took luminol, which is the chemical that CSIs use to make latent blood stains appear. They glow. It works off the iron in the blood pretty much. So I used that, and the stain on the mattress actually glowed. It was glowed so bright that it lit up the room. And so you could kind of see where that person was laying. You could see that their arm was outstretched, and actually blood ran off the side of the bed too. So you could see all that with the luminol. So it was pretty cool. And then using the luminol, I confirmed that there was another bloody mattress, but it was more blood spatter. And then there was a tub in the building that had blood all over it, but I don't know where any of those two came from because I don't fit any of the deaths that I could find at that point. So it was pretty cool to use some of those techniques and try to figure things out.
And are you still going into the Anderson Hotel as part of the Lawrenceburg Ghost Walk?
No, we don't go in there anymore. Nobody goes in there right now. It is more of a liability thing for the owners. They have a business downstairs, so for people to go upstairs all the time, it's a little more, it gets to be a little more headache than it's worth. Mm-hmm. So, you can understand that, but, I had a great time investigating. It really allowed me to grow and try experiments and, work with different types of energies and see what fits and what don't. And I'm telling you now, I would recommend people, if they can, to find them a place like that. And, a lot of investigators only go for, like, the big places. Like, they'll go to Waverly or they'll go to wherever. And that's what they go to. So they may go there every 6 months or once a year and be like, man, I was doing this or I was doing that. Well, I've found normal places that are not even on the map that are highly active and way more active than some of the big locations. Mm-hmm. So, all you got to do is find you a place with 2 or 3 ghosts and, work on them, experiment, learn, do that as much as you can. There was a building here in town that I investigated that's still one of my favorite places, and it only had about 3 spirits in the place.
Only 3.
And, yeah. And,
I would take
but
one.
It was very active. Yeah.
Right.
But it was very active. It was very, very, very active as far as apparitions and things go. So I liked working with that, and I like to experiment. And, I learned with different energies how almost ghosts react to certain energies sometimes. So it's pretty cool to kind of play those experiments and learn, and it really helps you grow as an investigator.
And where can people find the Lawrenceburg Ghost Walk online?
You can go to LawrenceburgGhostWalk.com or KYGhostTours.com. Either one of them will take you to the page.
Perfect.
And we're on Facebook under Lawrenceburg Ghost Walk.
All right, now switching gears again, subjects and gears. You also mentioned a possible UFO sighting?
Yeah, that was kind of funny because it was me and Lee Kirkland. We were actually driving. It was late at night. And we were driving down, in kind of out in the middle of country area of the road. And we saw this, what looked like a shooting star. And it was kind of going and going and going. And then it went straight down, and it was like somebody flipped off a light switch as it got close to the ground. But it was far off away from us. So it wasn't a shooting star, and it wasn't an aircraft that we knew that could do that. So it was a UFO, an unexplained object in the air. So who knows what that was. Now, my mother, she actually saw a UFO very, very, very up close when I was a young child. And she tells the story about it flying over my grandparents' house. She could see it. It was dropping stuff that looked like almost like fiery balls to the ground. And she even tells the noise that it made. And she was afraid that it was going to catch their house on fire. So she saw it, with her own eyes. And my mother's not one to create stories. So I told her, and this was when I was old enough to read and stuff, and I told her, I was like, why did you wake me up? I was like, I wanted to see that too. But, you know, there's some crazy UFO stories in Kentucky. Some of the more famous ones. We've got several of those. So Kentucky is a weird place.
What noise did she say it was making?
She said it was making like a humming noise, almost like a whirling noise. You know, it was kind of like like a deep hum that was kind of going up and down in levels. You know, from loud to kind of silent. But she said it sounded like that it was just flying, and she said it was crazy because there's fire or something falling out of it. It was almost like pieces of fire or sparks or something were falling off of it and going toward the ground. So, you know, who knows what that is. So, but she said it was floating right over my grandparents' house. So who knows what happened there. Hopefully I wasn't abducted. I hope that didn't happen.
Yeah, maybe a little hypnotism for you and see what's in there, huh?
Yeah.
Not that that's foolproof.
I'd be afraid to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
God, there's no telling what would come out. Deep-rooted issues would come out. I'd be like, well, okay, now we know where that comes from.
That explains a lot, Jeff. I think that's what
that explains a lot. Like,
the hypnotist would say,
I got it now.
Yeah, we understand Jeff now a lot better.
Be like, we get it. We get it now.
What did Lee Kirkland also see that UFO that night?
Yeah, we both did. It was weird, and still to this day we talk about it and we're like, we have no idea what that was.
What color was it?
It was bright. It was kind of like I would say kind of the way you would look at like an LED Christmas light. That's a white one. Mm-hmm. You know, like a white LED Christmas light, like really bright. And but it was off probably. Oh, I'd say it was probably several miles away from us. But it was kind of flying the same direction we were, and then it went straight down.
Was this in Kentucky?
And, yeah, it was between Lawrenceburg and Harrodsburg. And so, on 127, actually. So, it was right in that area. But it was weird because there's no plane that can just go straight down. And even with a meteor or shooting star, it's going to follow at some, trajectory. It's not going to go straight down. And this one went straight down. It was like somebody flipped the light switch off when it got close to the ground. So it was strange. The way that it maneuvered was weird. Because Lee, I think, was the first to see it. And he said, oh, look, a shooting star. And then, wait a minute, that's not a shooting star. Mm-hmm. And then it went straight down. And then from there, we were like, well, okay then.
Right.
I was just glad that I didn't have to, he had to ride back to his house by himself that night. I was like, well, enjoy your ride back through that area.
Like, good luck.
Yeah, there'd be little gray men standing in the road waiting on you.
Yeah, a little missing time situation, right? You're like, Lee, you got anything you want to talk about, buddy?
Like, is your butt sore?
That's right. Feel? Yeah. Did you have any problems sitting down over the next couple days after we saw that?
Was there any probing that took place?
Lee would be open enough to talk about it, wouldn't you, Lee? Sure he would.
He would never say that happened. He would be like, no, I was not probed. I'd be like, I'm pretty sure you were.
He's like, no, that never happened, not even close.
Yeah, and then he would cry quietly at night.
There'd be a lot of crying.
But yeah, that's one thing I think is cool about Kentucky is there's so much weird stuff. Mm-hmm. Whether it be ghost or Bigfoot or whatever, there's a ton of it. And we have some of the most famous haunted locations in Kentucky. You got Waverly, and you have Octagon Hall, and you have Bobby Mackey's and Perryville, and different places that have been all over the place. We have them. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think it all comes back to maybe, some of the mineral makeup of Kentucky, some of the limestone, some of the underground water, all that kind of weird stuff. But, there's all these books that talk about the Native Americans. Whenever they would come to Kentucky, they always called it, the dark and mysterious ground or whatever. and maybe they knew that there was something weird going on here. So, you know, who knows? Who knows really what goes on? You know, there's UFOs, there's Bigfoot, there's everything that's going on in Kentucky, and it's crazy to see how we have such notorious stories that come out of Kentucky when the state is not that big. You know, it's pretty good size, but you could literally drive from one end to the other pretty much in 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
So, you know, 6 probably tops. So, you know, it's pretty crazy to see everything that comes out of here.
You mentioned Bobby Mackey's, and I know that Nick Groff himself has a history with that place to where the last I heard, he didn't ever want to go back in there. Now, I know that you guys with the Nick Groff Tour, you guys go to different locations. Is that still a place to this day where he's like, I'm not going in to Bobby Mackey's?
Well, interestingly enough, we did go back. That was the first place on the Nick Groff Tour that we did.
Go,
and
Nick! That's awesome. I always thought he wasn't going to go back in there.
Yeah, he did. He went back, and it was funny. It was actually a crazy story because I was talking to Lee, and I was like, I think we need to make Bobby Mackey like one of the places. And we were like, well, how do we talk to Nick about this? Bring it up because we don't want to make him think we're trying to whore him out. Be like, listen, we really don't care about your feelings. We just need you to go back here. But when he had it in his mind at the same time, he was like, I
Jeff,
think we
sorry,
need to put
it's really muffled again.
Oh, God, again?
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, it was
Are
getting a little muffled. Yeah, that's better. Thanks. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll try to hold it back away from my mouth a little bit. But, you know, it was kind of like, in Nick's mind, he kind of had it in his mind and he needed to do it too. So that's what we did. We made Bobby Mackey's the first stop on the first Nick Groff Tour. And it was a challenge to sell tickets because people were afraid of the place. So we were like, good Lord. But it was cool. We kind of made it a special little thing. They got to, Bobby Mackey came out and he sang a couple songs, and we investigated the place, and it was pretty neat to be back there for the first time with Nick when he got to go back.
Did anything happen while you guys were there?
Oh, yeah, it was active. I mean, it's a very active place. Mm-hmm. Now, do I believe all of the demonic stuff? I don't know. I know it is very active. It is haunted, very haunted. I think some of your activity may come from where the mob did business out of there and some of the stuff that went on there that we'll never know about. So, you know, I think there were some deaths that took place there that we don't have record of. And, you know, there was a lot of history going on there where you don't have a lot of record of what went on. So, you know, there's some bad stuff that's happened there, I'd say.
That was one of the locations where in the basement there was the quote-unquote one of the portals to hell. Wasn't that in Bobby Mackey's as well?
Now, I will tell you that well that's down there. Every time I go around it, I get dizzy. And I think there is some kind of energy level there, but that well connects to the river. So, you know, there probably is something going on there. But yeah, every time I go around that well, I get dizzy every time, and it's strange. And I think that may be one of your sources there of where people get sick feeling or dizzy or whatever. But I think there's been some bad things go down there. Now, some of the stuff that, you know, we kind of hang our hat on with Bobby Mackey's historical wise, it can't be totally proven. So, I mean, you know, there's certain parts that where there's a loose history, it's there, but again, it goes back so far where you can't really find out exactly what happened.
Right.
But then you have this one part of their history where they were basically a speakeasy or a club where there was a lot of mob activity going on there. So that's probably where a lot of your crazy stuff went on that we'll never know about. And I would say there were probably people killed in that basement, and maybe dumped down that well or whatever that we will never have record of. So who knows? That place is a mystery, but it is a very cool place to go. I recommend anybody to go there. Bobby's awesome. His place is awesome. The people there are great. And if you want to walk into a honky-tonk from the 70s that looks like something that would be on Dukes of Hazzard, go to Bobby Mackey.
Right.
Because it is literally like you walk into an old honky-tonk that you would see on a movie. I mean, from the mechanical bull to everything else, it's got it all. So it's a cool place.
So what's been your favorite location so far with the Nick Groff Tour?
I've had the privilege to see a bunch, but I really liked Pennhurst a lot. It was very active. And then Missouri State Pen in Jefferson City, Missouri was one of my favorites too. Ashmore State is really cool. Queen Mary was neat. I mean, I've been to so many.
Yeah.
Each one of them has kind of their own flavor. The Queen Mary is pretty cool because you're walking on an old ocean liner. It's pretty much been restored, and the rooms even have been restored. So it's really like you're stepping back in time. With Pennhurst, man, that place was a ton of activity, even during the day. And with Missouri State Pen, that was the bloodiest prison pretty much in America. It was open, till 2002, I believe. But it was open from the 1800s all the way to 2002, and it was Missouri's only maximum security prison for the longest time. So it held all the people for murder. It had a death house. It had death row. It has the gas chamber that's still standing. You can actually sit in a chair where, all these men were executed, and one woman. There was one woman that was executed. But you can sit in that chair, and when you sit in that chair, the feeling that you get, you can actually feel that energy, and it's mind-blowing. But, yeah, those kind of places are crazy. I can't wait. We're going to Brushy Mountain Prison in Tennessee this year for the tour, so I can't wait for that. I think that'll be cool. We're going back to Ashmore. We're getting ready to go. We're doing the USS Hornet. That's another location we're going to be doing. So there's all kinds of craziness that you get to kind of go out on, look at, and being with the tour, and you kind of get a private tour outside of regular business time where they take you and show you the cool stuff. They're like, hey, this happened over here, that happened here, this happened to me. So you get to hear from the people that own the places or help run the place. And that's kind of cool for me to get to experience that.
So besides you and Nick and Lee and Jennifer, how many people are usually on one of these investigations?
It all depends on the location. We try to limit it. Some locations we'll have to limit to 40 or 50 people. Some places, we can fit 60 or 70 people. But we usually don't try to go over that number because we still try to make it a personal experience. So what we do is we break them into smaller groups. So we'll break them into, groups of 10 or 15. And then that way we can split them up into different places. And each group will get about an hour or so to investigate each little area that's hot. We'll kind of find out what the hot locations are. And we'll let them investigate. So they'll have time with investigators, and then they'll have time on their own. And a lot of people are first-time investigators. So for them, it's an educational experience. So we try to make it a little bit for everybody. We know some people are more experienced. We'll kind of let them go off and do their thing. And then if we have others that maybe have never investigated, well, then they can hang out with us. We'll show them how to do things. So it's pretty cool. Everybody enjoys themselves.
Have you had in a location where someone's maybe not as seasoned an investigator that they really had something impactful happen that really freaked them out?
I would say probably every location that we've done, you always have some big impactful story. And I always tell people it's like a cool experiment because you're taking all these people with all their camera phones and all their recorders and everything, and you're throwing them into a haunted place. And as long as you know where the living people are, well, then there's a good chance you're going to catch some activity because you're saturating the place with living people. And each one of them has their own ears, each one of them has their own eyes, and they all kind of can gather their own experiences. So it's pretty cool to see what each group has, because the groups are not mixed until the end of the night. And at the end of the night, we always come back together as a group, and we're talking about activity. And it's pretty cool to see when 2 groups or 3 groups have the same kind of stuff happen in a location that they knew nothing about. Mm-hmm. So it's a way to prove some of that stuff. So it's pretty neat. People enjoy themselves, and there have been several people that have had very impactful experiences. You know, people have been touched and scratched and different things. So some people walk out of there never looking at the paranormal the same way again.
Now, do you guys film any of that?
Yes. Usually I'll have a camera. Lee has a camera on occasion. So we try to have cameras as much as possible. And that may be something that you see come down the pipe, down the road sometime, that we actually do start to film these things more and put them out there for people. Because it is pretty neat. I mean, it's a heck of an experiment, honestly, to see these places. And let people live vicariously through us would be pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I would like to watch that. Like you said, the whole mix of some of these timeless locations with all these things trapped and maybe a little sedentary until you get all these people in there. And they're so spread out, It's like, how can you not get any kind of a reaction, right?
Yeah, and you'll kind of see, well, this place was active, this place wasn't active, this area was active, that place wasn't. So it's kind of cool to see how it varies. You know, you may have a group start out at the beginning of the night in a place and nothing happened. Well, the next group may come into that same area and it goes crazy. So you really can't predict one way or another what's going to happen, and it really shows you how unpredictable that paranormal energy are. You know, you can't predict where they're going to be, and that's the hardest part people have with it. It's not predictable. It's not. You can't record it with scientific methods the way you would other things. So I think that's trouble people have with it.
One of the funniest things I think on social media is when Lee will post a picture, like it's either Nick sitting with Jennifer, who is Lee's wife, or it's all of you guys in a group picture, and Lee's always mad dogging Nick. You know, like everyone's looking at the camera except for Lee, and he's just giving the dirtiest look over at Nick. It's just funny. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's kind of Lee's pose. That's what he likes to do.
It works. It's funny.
And I would not take a serious picture. I don't like taking serious pictures. I think you may find one of me taking a serious pose. I don't like taking pictures.
Yeah.
So every time they go snap a picture, then I'm going to do something stupid because I don't, I want people, if these pictures last 80 years, I want them to look back and be like, good Lord, look at this guy. I don't want them to be like, well, he just seems like a normal guy. I want them, you got to last.
Like, I remember him.
When you look at some of these, you got to look at some of these old pictures and you're like, well, that's just a guy. Well, no, if he's making a crazy face or doing something crazy, well, then you're going to be like, I need to know more about this guy.
Well, I mean, I know that all of you are a little crazy. That's why I like you. So, yeah, I can sense the crazy. Yeah. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, I keep everybody on their toes. Why not? I mean, why be boring? You got to be fun. So, I try to keep it interesting at all times. It's fun to have some crazy things go. And we've had some crazy times out on the tour because some of these locations, these little towns that we go into, there's nothing to do. So we pretty much have to create our own entertainment.
Yeah.
And you kind of see it's funny because you can watch the TV shows and you can see everything, but you don't see the challenges that they face being in these locations, being in these little towns, because sometimes they film for, like Nick and Katrina, they film for 3 days, 4 days. 3 days they're in the location, and then the 4th day kind of, just interviews that they give and things like that. So little filler stuff. But for 3 days they're in these places, and they have to have food brought to them. They have to have all this stuff brought to them, and you may have to eat the same restaurant for 3 days because that's all you got.
Right.
So for 3 days, you're going to experience that whole menu. So there's been times where we're like, hey, Nick, let's go to this location. He's like, oh, God, no, the hotel's not good there. There's only one restaurant, so let's find somewhere else. So you kind of get to see what he went through when he was filming these places, and I laugh all the time about it.
Well, what's the home base for Nick Groff Tour for anybody that might be interested?
NickGroffTour.com is that's the home base. And then we have a Facebook page. And right now, the USS Hornet is sold out. That was a 2-day event. It's sold out. But Ashmore State, Brushy Mountain, both of those are still going. Nick's going to be at Michigan Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie. He'll be there in August. Several people will be there in August. So I definitely check that out if you're interested or you're in that area. So a lot of stuff coming up, and there'll probably be some more little things we add in, some more little events we do, over throughout the year. But Nick's so busy right now with his haunted space and with his show, and then they're filming some things for England and things. So I mean, he's constantly moving.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to let everybody know about what's going on. You guys are so busy. It's so fun to watch kind of what's been going on in the background, all the different locations that you guys go to. I follow Nick and I follow you and Lee and Jennifer, of course. Is there any other social media things that we need to throw out? I know that we kind of peppered them in as we were talking about them, but anything else that folks need to know about?
Wild Man Days.
Okay.
It's in Lawrenceburg, and it's actually Kentucky's only Bigfoot street festival. So basically, the community here, I've been talking to them for a while about coming up with another town festival. We've got one, but they wanted an earlier one. And so I said, well, let's just go off our Bigfoot folklore, because Lawrenceburg and Anderson County has one of the top, amount of sightings for Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let's use that. They've been seeing it since the 1700s in Lawrenceburg and Anderson County, so why don't we use that? So we came up with Wild Man Days, and so it's just going to be a town festival, but it's going to have Bigfoot sprinkled in, so it'll be kind of cool. There'll be nice bands and beer and food and Bigfoot and what else, and it's free. So I mean, what else are you gonna do? So wildmandays.com is the webpage for that, but we still have some vendor spots and looking at some speakers and things. So if anybody's interested, go to the webpage. You can find out all you want to know about Wild Man Days.
Wildmandays.com. Awesome. And it's free, you said. And there's beer and Bigfoot and broads and all the other B words. That's great. You broke up there a little, Jeff.
Oh, you got barbecue, that's another B word.
Can't forget that. That is a very important B word for a street festival.
Yeah, so there you go.
That was when I went to the Mothman Festival, I think that the food trucks there were so flippin' good. And, the lines were very long, but very worth it by the time you got your food because it was delicious.
Yeah, we've, with Wild Man Days, we've actually went after a lot of the food trucks in the area that we know are really good. And some of the folks that we have so far are, like, we got a food truck that does, like, brick oven pizza.
Oh, my God.
And we've got a food truck that does barbecue. And we got a food truck that does, just anything you could imagine. But we tried to go after unique food vendors. That way people would be like, wow, you got to try this. That is really good.
I bet sometimes Nick's like, hey, maybe we could get this on the tour, like 4 or 5 different trucks to follow us around.
Oh, God, that would be good. Now, we do sometimes, like at Ashmore, there's a barbecue truck that always comes out. So
nice.
we try to make sure people are fed. But with the Wild Man Days, the cool part about that is we signed on our official brewery. The West 6 Brewing Company out of Lexington is going to be our official beer person for Wild Man Days, and they've got a lot of cool brews that they do. So I'm not a beer connoisseur, but the people that tried it and liked it, there's all kinds of different flavors and lagers and all kinds of stouts and whatever else terminology you can come up with there.
Right, yeah. I'm sure the beer snobs, and I say that in the most loving way, but the beer snobs, they know about all that stuff. Yeah.
They love it. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. And I mean it. When it's time to start promoting your documentary, I would love to get you on and talk about the Texarkana murders.
Well, we'll definitely do that. I think it'd be cool to do, and I'll be able to share with you a lot of the craziness of it. But yeah, if this weather would break in Kentucky, I've got a few little pieces of footage I need to film for filler stuff.
Right.
And
the old
and
B-roll.
when I'm done, so yeah, the old B-roll. I need to film some things, but good Lord, it's been raining and snowing and cold, and so it's been a little bit of everything.
Those big feetses are like, man, those caves are looking pretty good right now. I mean, who wants to be wet all the time?
I would say if they're close to the river right now, as much as it's rained over the past several days, I'd say they're probably somewhere on higher ground.
Yeah, who can blame them? Well,
I don't blame them at all.
Jeff, thanks so much. I'll be seeing you on the old Book of Face and all that, and I appreciate your time today on your day off.
Well, of course. And any time that you need me, just call. I'll be happy to talk about whatever.
Well, thank you, sir. And if you guys need anything, of course, with Cryptid Con or Wildman Days, or just, throw me something and I can easily just plug it in on my show. I mean, people like to hear about that stuff, so I can't always catch everything.
And you got to come out sometime.
I do.
You got to come out to something. You got to hang out and do things.
To one of the events that you guys put on, because it looks like you guys have a blast. I would love to meet everybody.
Yeah, definitely. You need to come out and hang out with us.
I would like that a lot, and give everybody a little bit of shit, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? And that's what friends do to each other. Yeah, you act like a goofball, and make a fool of yourself.
Some alcoholic beverages and have fun.
That's right. All right. So if you don't like beer, then what do you? I'm a whiskey sipper, drinker.
Bourbon for me. Mm-hmm. I'll drink bourbon. If I'm trying, if you're drinking and it's kind of expensive bar, then I'll go straight for the LITs, because you need to get it fast. Because if you're sitting there and you're trying to drink, you're like, well, my bar tab's gonna be like $60.
Uh-huh.
Or I can just drink like 2 or 3 LITs and pay like $15, $20, and I'm good to go.
That's true.
So you got to kind of, maybe we do a whole show on how to get drunk cheap.
Yeah, you got to weigh your options. It's a very specific formula, everybody.
I always tell Nick that he tries to alcohol poison me when I'm around him, because he'll just feed me drinks. And
he's the enabler.
I ain't buying them, so whatever.
Right? And Nick's the enabler. That we figured that one out on this episode.
That's right.
Yeah. That's it. The fingers have been pointed.
I just drink plenty of water, and then the next day I try not to be hungover, because I got work to do.
Yeah. Damn work. I know the older we get, the less, we're able to recover the next day, whereas before you could just get as crazy as you want, and the next day you're like, oh, that didn't even happen. That's how my body feels. Not anymore.
Then you lay in bed and you're like, oh God, I can't get up. I'm feeling horrible. I feel horrible.
Yeah, you're like, I'm an idiot. I'll never do that again. Oh, very next week.
And then you do it again.
Yeah. We just don't learn. It's Pavlov's dog just coming back for more every single time. It's not positive reinforcement.
That is it. That is definitely it.
All right, Jeff. Well, you take care. Have a good rest of your day off, and let me know if you guys need anything, okay?
Oh, for sure. And you do the same.
Thank you, good sir. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little biography. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. else. They will say, no, we don't believe literally in reincarnation. That after your funeral, you will suddenly become somebody different, living somewhere else. They will say reincarnation means this, that if you sitting here now are really convinced that you're the same person who walked in the door half an hour ago, you're being reincarnated. If you are liberated, you will understand that you're not. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. There is only the present. That's the only real you that there is. The Zen master Dogman put it in this way. He said, spring does not become the summer. First there is summer, and then there is spring. When you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, now get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.